And now, probably the most underestimated hack to build wealth. Lifestyle inflation steals away your wealth. Here's how you can avoid it. Now, if you're anything like me, you do like to enjoy your life. I remember when I first started working, I finally wanted to enjoy my money and treat myself to things that I could not before. And even though my salary seemed so much more than before, it vanished quickly. Have you had that before? Moving into a bigger apartment, new jacket, and also going out eating more often than before, this lifestyle just creeps up on you, which maybe is the reason why it's also called lifestyle creep. And we're not even talking 5-star hotels and Louis Vuitton bags yet. And I don't know about you, but at the same time, I was scared that I would not be able to keep this lifestyle that I had grown to like very much in the long term if I don't build wealth. And eventually I found a way to do both. Enjoy life, but also build wealth at the same time. If that's something you're interested in as well, keep watching because I'll share the exact strategies how I did that. I'm Sophia. I've been learning about personal finance and investing for more than a decade now. And I also love to talk about money and how we can build wealth without living frugal. So shortly before I started my first full-time job, I moved into a bigger apartment. I did that a few months before because I knew once I have to work 10 plus hours a day, it'll be much harder to go on the look for an apartment and also to move. So I wanted to have it set beforehand. And afterwards, I found out that it's actually pretty common. I read that in the book The Millionaire Next Door. And they found out that people who end up having less wealth than they should compared to their income, they already increase their lifestyle in anticipation of the raise or of the higher income. And yep, that's exactly what I did. So lifestyle inflation, or also called lifestyle creep, is when your expenses automatically rise with your income, sometimes even before that. And now the first thing that helped me to prevent this lifestyle inflation was to put money out of sight. And I did that by transferring money from my checking account where I receive my salary to my investment accounts, and I did that immediately after I received my salary. You may have heard it before. It's a personal finance concept that is called pay yourself first. And I swear it's one of the most powerful concepts, and it's also one of the easiest to build wealth. Because at least for me, and I suspect for you also, when I have a lot of money in my checking account, I just will be tempted to spend it. But this way, I keep a part of my salary to myself because the investment accounts are also mine. And I don't look into those investment accounts as often as I do into my checking account. And also, once my money is there, I don't touch it. So this is not money to spend. And that brings me to the second thing, which is separation. Let me share another concept with you real quick so that I can explain why this is helpful. So in behavioral science, there's this thing called mental accounting. And this is when we put our money into different buckets in our head. Like, for example, you find money on the street and then naturally you spend it because you automatically categorize this money as a lucky coincidence and you treat that money differently than, for example, your salary. Now, usually this is rather bad for our finances because it leads to decisions that don't benefit our financial situation as a whole. That's why mental accounting is a cognitive bias. But I think there is a way we can use that to our advantage. And that is by separating saving from spending. So when you have an account that is just for spending, like your checking account, and also an account that is for saving, like a high yield savings account, and also later an investment account, then the purpose of those two types of accounts is so clear that there should not be any temptation to spend from another account than the spending account, at least not as much as compared if we had only everything in one. And another advantage of the separation is that it makes measuring our wealth much easier. I'll get to that in a minute. But first, let me tell you about something that completely changed my life when I discovered it, and that is the fun account. So I learned this from my first money coach, Bodo Schäfer. He's German. And I stumbled upon a video of his where he explains the account system, where he also recommends to separate the two, spending and saving. So he said part of your salary goes into saving. I prefer to call it the wealth side because saving sometimes implies that you only put it into a high yield savings account. But if you want to build real wealth, you also need to invest that money. So wealth side, is a bigger term that combines saving and investing in one category. And the other thing he said, maybe you don't live very long. And he's right, because we never really know, do we? And that is why you also put a part of your salary into a fun account. And that is an account just for enjoying your life. And I love the idea, and I've been using it ever since. So in the beginning, I created a separate checking account for this, but then later my bank offered sub-accounts. So right now it's a sub-account from my checking account, and I started to transfer money there as well. And here's how I spent this money. So what I did is I used the 80-20 principle. I don't know if you've heard about it before. It's an economic concept, but that also can be used in many other fields as well. And it states that 20% of our actions lead to 80% of our results. So in our case, when we talk about spending money, 20% of where we spend our money leads to 80% of our satisfaction with what we bought, 80% of the happiness of purchases. So I took a look at my expenses, and I also asked myself, what is the essence for me to feel like, you know what, I have a good lifestyle? And what popped up for me, the first one was traveling, because to be able to go places and also have a nice accommodation actually makes me feel rich and makes me feel good about my life. And the second thing I noticed is, for me, it's luxury items. So using nice things in my daily life, especially handbags, clothes, jewelry, stuff like that. And I remember one situation where we went to a nice hotel, and I got out of the car to walk into the hotel, and I was wearing a coat, and I genuinely felt good in what I wore. That was one of the first times I noticed how important this is for me and how it adds value to my life. And that's the reason my fun account is split in half. So one is for travel and the other is for luxury items. Now for you it may be something else. But usually there is at least one category where you like to spend more money on than maybe other people or than usual. So before you drain all of your income on stuff that doesn't even matter that much to you, find out what that category is for you. So find out what the 20% is from all the things that you buy that lead to 80% of your happiness. And then buy this thing only from the fun account. As a guideline, Bodo Schäfer, back in the video, he recommended to put 5% towards your fun account. Now, whatever number you choose, I do recommend to make this less than what you put towards your wealth side. Because the faster your wealth side grows, the sooner you don't have to worry about money ever again. And also the sooner you can start the money that comes from your wealth side also for your fun side. The next thing I did that helped me prevent lifestyle inflation was reward. I think the main reason why saving and investing seems so hard for most people is because supposedly there is no reward, especially not in the short term. Because with making a purchase, we have this little dopamine hit. Dopamine is the hormone that is responsible for pleasure and also for satisfaction, and by the way, also for motivation. So we obviously have that when we buy something. And then the question becomes, how can we make saving and investing rewarding for us? And there are 2 steps that I implemented that helped me to do that. The first one is calculate my net worth. Now, unfortunately, I found out about the net worth pretty late in my financial journey. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I would be wealthier now than I actually am. Net worth is assets minus liabilities, so everything that you own minus everything that you owe. And to calculate my net worth, I have used an Excel sheet for the past years. I just plug in the numbers, it calculates everything automatically, and at the end of it, there is a graph where I can see my net worth grow. So I can visually see it, and that visual for me is the reward, because now I can see how it grows, and every time it does, it makes me very happy. If you want to use it as well, it's free, link down below. And the second thing I did, and still do, is I pick a reward for financial milestones. So I do set financial goals, and then once I reach them, I reward myself, because that's this positive feedback loop that keeps us motivated, because there's also a dopamine hit. It keeps us motivated to keep going and to tackle also the next financial goals. And now, probably the most underestimated hack to build wealth is using windfalls. Now, what does that mean? I already mentioned before the situation where you find money and then you spend it because you don't treat this money the same like your salary. And now using windfalls like this means to treat them exactly the way that you treat your salary. So all the money that enters your life one way or another, this can be a raise, it can be a bonus, it can be money from family members, and it also can be additional income that you have, for example, by selling things, or maybe you have a side hustle, to treat all those different amounts of money like an income stream. So you also put part of that money to your wealth side, and you put the other part of that money to, for example, your fun account. And that way you don't just spend that money mindlessly. Instead, you use that money very intentionally. And I promise you, this will accelerate your wealth. I've been talking a lot about the wealth side because that's the way we let our money work for us. And that eventually will make us financially free. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out this video next, where I explain why the first 100K are so important. If you're still here, thank you for watching this far. Thank you for spending your precious time with me, and I hope this helps.